Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 3 a.m., your body completely exhausted, but your mind just racing with a million uncontrolled thoughts? Or maybe you've experienced that profound, heavy burnout that just doesn't seem to go away no matter how many hours you sleep. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are not just looking at isolated symptoms. We're actually opening up the biological mystery box to decode the hidden operating system running beneath the surface of your everyday experience. We are going to explore exactly why your body sometimes refuses to feel safe enough to rest, and how countless interconnected biological processes are happening every moment of every day to shape exactly how you feel. So, let's dive right in.
Now, this is the central question that's going to guide our entire investigation today. Because here's a deeply misunderstood truth. Health is not just a collection of separate, isolated habits. It is a deeply interconnected web. When we experience things like fragmented sleep, nervous system dysregulation, or chronic tension, we almost always treat them as separate problems. But what if they're all just different alarms triggered by the exact same invisible biological force? To really understand this, we have to look at the master switch of human survival.
Section 1, the invisible stress machine.
We so often think of chronic stress as just a feeling, right? Like an emotional experience of being overwhelmed. But scientifically speaking, it is a highly mechanical biological output. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, or HPA axis. When your brain perceives a threat, your hypothalamus releases a hormone called CRH, which tells the pituitary gland to release ACTH, which finally commands your adrenal glands to pump out cortisol. Now, this chemical cascade was originally designed to save you from predators, but today, a stressful email, sitting in traffic, or just a poor night's sleep triggers this exact same neuroendocrine system. And when it doesn't shut off, the consequences are incredibly profound.
Because the fallout from this is devastating. When the HPA axis loses its natural circadian rhythm and basically gets stuck in hyperactivity, it doesn't just make you feel anxious, it drives systemic pathology across your entire body. It literally impairs your immune system, it speeds up muscle wasting, it alters your gut microbiome, and it degrades your cognitive longevity. Sustained cortisol production literally accelerates how our tissues age. Your brain, your muscles, your organs, they're all taking the hit. True vitality requires harmony across this entire system. So, here is the absolutely crucial point. If the HPA axis has a built-in negative feedback loop that's designed to shut it off when the threat is gone, why does it get stuck in the on position? What is actually happening on a microscopic level when this stress machine just keeps running? Well, the answer lies in a hidden biological conflict happening deep inside your cells.
Which brings us to Section 2, the cellular tug-of-war.
To truly understand why we feel so tense and wired, we have to zoom all the way down into a cellular paradox. Inside every single muscle fiber and every neuron, there is a continuous, epic battle for dominance between two essential minerals. Think of your nervous system and your muscles like a car. Calcium is the accelerator. It drives muscle contraction, it activates the NMDA receptors in your brain, and it pushes excitatory stress signaling. You absolutely need it to move and react. But magnesium is the brakes. It promotes muscle relaxation, enhances your calming GABA pathways, and initiates recovery. You need both. But in modern biology, we are practically standing on the accelerator while the brake lines have been cut.
Mechanically, it looks exactly like this. When you want to move, an action potential releases calcium ions. They bind to a protein called troponin C, which physically locks the muscle fiber into a tense contraction. It pulls tight. Now, to let go of that tension, magnesium has to physically fight the calcium for those exact same binding sites. It literally has to kick the calcium out. If you don't have enough magnesium to win that microscopic battle, your muscle physically cannot relax. It just stays locked in a state of tension.
Let's move to Section 3, the HPA axis dysregulation.
Okay, so we've established that magnesium is the physiological brake pedal for your muscles and your brain. But here is the devastating paradox of modern stress. The very act of being stressed robs you of the very mineral you need to calm down. It creates this vicious cycle. When the HPA axis is activated and pumps out cortisol and adrenaline, this chemical cascade forces magnesium out of your cells and into your bloodstream, where your kidneys eventually excrete it in your urine. I mean, think about that. You literally pee out your body's natural relaxation mineral when you are stressed. And because low magnesium status naturally increases the release of stress hormones, this depletion triggers even more HPA hyperactivity.
It is a self-reinforcing downward spiral.
And this isn't just theory. Preclinical models and mechanistic studies prove that dietary magnesium deficiency directly induces pronounced anxiety-like behavior and systemic HPA axis dysregulation. The lack of this mineral literally rewires the nervous system for panic and chronic tension. It proves that what we so often view as a purely psychological issue, like anxiety, is actually deeply rooted in our biochemistry.
So this brings us to a really life-changing realization. If chronic stress depletes our physiological brakes, and the lack of brakes causes more stress, how do we intervene? What specific biological tool can successfully rewire this dysregulated system and finally pull us out of survival mode?
Section 4. The Master Biological Regulator.
The answer lies in restoring the body's foundational biochemistry. We have to give the master regulator exactly what it needs to shift the nervous system from fight or flight into deep recovery. Neurologically speaking, this is how the magic happens. Magnesium acts as a physical, voltage-dependent blocker of the NMDA glutamate receptor in your brain. When you have adequate magnesium, the ion literally plugs the channel, preventing the uncontrolled influx of excitatory calcium. It stops hyperexcitability dead in its tracks. And at the very same time, it enhances GABA, which is your brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. It physically quietens the noise in your head.
But what actually happens when we correct this deficiency in living humans? The results are staggering. In a 24-week clinical trial, targeted oral magnesium supplementation resulted in a massive, measurable drop in urinary cortisol excretion. This isn't just a subjective feeling of being less stressed. This is a highly objective physiological reduction in the exact hormone that causes biological aging and burnout. And how does it achieve this? Through some incredible enzymatic wizardry. Inside your body, specific enzymes convert inactive cortisone into active stress-driving cortisol. Other enzymes do the exact opposite, turning active cortisol into inactive waste. The clinical data shows that magnesium actually shifts your body's cellular machinery to favor that second pathway. It actively converts stress-driving hormones into harmless inactive waste, rapidly lowering your systemic burden. Let's look at Section 5, the architecture of deep sleep. When you repair this master regulator, the downstream effects on your real-world performance are profound. And nowhere is this more evident than in how your body recovers at night. If you want to alter the trajectory of your health, you absolutely must optimize sleep. The clinical data here is incredibly consistent. Higher magnesium intake is linked to significantly fewer sleep complaints and far better overall sleep architecture. When the HPA axis is calm and those NMDA receptors are blocked from overfiring, your body finally feels safe enough to transition into the deep, slow-wave sleep that is absolutely required for cellular repair and memory consolidation. But here is where most people get completely overwhelmed. If magnesium is the key, you can't just take any random supplement off the shelf. The market is flooded with confusion, dozens of different forms, and wildly varying levels of bioavailability. So, how do we choose the exact right biochemical tool for our specific biology? Well, not all magnesium is created equal. It must be bound to a carrier molecule to remain stable, and that molecule dictates exactly where it goes in your body. For instance, if you bind it to citrate, you get great general absorption, but it draws water into the gut and can act as a laxative. If you bind it to an amino acid like glycine, you get highly bioavailable magnesium bisglycinate. And if you bind it to threonic acid, you get L-threonate, which uniquely targets the brain. Let's look a little closer at the top two performers for the nervous system. First up, for deep somatic relaxation, when your body itself feels physically tense, magnesium bisglycinate is the premier choice. Here, the mineral is bound to glycine, which is itself an inhibitory calming neurotransmitter. So you're actually getting a dual-action relaxation effect. It's highly stable, it bypasses typical digestive distress, and in clinical trials, it has been shown to drop insomnia severity scores significantly. It is essentially the ultimate brake pedal for a wired, tense body. But what if your body is tired, but your brain just will not shut off? That's where magnesium L-threonate comes in. Bound to a vitamin C metabolite, this specific form was developed to efficiently cross the blood-brain barrier. It reaches the central nervous system directly to quiet those racing thoughts, reduce cognitive load, and has even been shown to significantly improve nocturnal heart rate variability. It is a highly targeted intervention for cognitive longevity and stress resilience. As we pull all of these threads together, a truly fascinating picture emerges. We've journeyed from the macro symptoms of burnout all the way down to a microscopic cellular tug-of-war and back up to targeted biochemical solutions. And the ultimate takeaway is this. Health is never about an isolated habit.
It is the beautiful emergent result of countless interconnected biological processes occurring every moment of every day. Your stress impacts your minerals dictate your nervous system controls your sleep, and your sleep dictates your longevity. I want to leave you with this final empowering thought. By understanding and taking control of this hidden cellular system, by deliberately giving your body the breaks it so desperately needs, you don't just feel a little bit better today. You permanently alter the trajectory of how you age, how you think, and how you thrive. So ask yourself, is your biological machine running on empty, or are you ready to finally hit the brakes?